Here again with an MWA update for 12/15/2022. Going to look today at a little bit more with alphas and weigh-ins, along with a couple other early season pieces of information. Be on the lookout for a written communication from the MWA that may have some other updates or information out there for coaches that need that, along with any written communication coming from the MHSA office and Dan Hutchinson that will have any rules, clarifications, or updates as their season's moving along. So our first key reminders on sportsmanship. Last week in that first week of contest, we had over 30 athletes that were ejected from the contest due to sportsmanship issues or things like that. Some of the main things that is being kind of seen out there right now, athlete-wise, right? Number one is language, right? Watching what we say or how we say that could be the difference between an athlete staying in the contest or not staying in the contest. Obviously the use of profanity or those things, even if it's potentially perceived in a positive manner, or you're trying to congratulate somebody, is still inappropriate language in our sport. The best thing that I would suggest you can do is just remind your athletes to talk to you as the coach and not to the official, and that you will kind of handle that. The other one, again, that's showing up a little more than it should is biting. The officials obviously have their metric in which they are kind of measuring and watching that. If for some reason you or your athlete feel that that's occurred, bringing that up, immediately after the incident or as soon after the incident as you can is your best bet to get that addressed by the official and be able to move forward. But also talking with athletes about not biting will be a good thing for all of us. As we've heard a whole lot, right? Coaches coach, wrestlers wrestle, officials officiate, and spectators spectate. The more we can do to clean up our sportsmanship and make it a more pleasurable event and experience for everybody, the better it's going to be. But, we know that we are an official shortage and that as a problem, and language and how we treat officials are two things as coaches that we definitely have control over our team with those things and need to continue to make sure we make a focus of that and doing that. If you see some things out there as coaches you're concerned or you want us to address some things with the state as a whole, please feel free to reach out to the MWA or your regional rep, and we want to work towards that, right? We want this better for everybody involved. So back to some alphas and weigh-in stuff, right? Part 3 kind of on this. I know I've covered a lot with this, but there's always a lot of questions that come. So yes, we know that the alpha, right, and the alpha master is online, but per the rules, you are supposed to have a physical copy on hand to present to your opponent or to give to your opponent for the contest if it's asked or if it's needed of them. It is not acceptable to tell your opponent, if you are being asked or the tournament director for a physical copy of your alpha, of just saying, well, it's online. Currently, again, like I said, the way the rules and the stuff read like that from the National Federation is it is our job to bring a physical copy of that to that contest. So I would suggest to you to always have a couple copies of that on hand in your coach's folder. Again, we know in most cases, a lot of us may or may not ask for that, or we know that we can see it online, but it is just in your best interest to do that. Along with that, right, best practice, I would suggest that you keep one physical copy of all weigh-ins that you have throughout the season. Not only does this kind of help you kind of keep track and know where kids are at and when scratch weights are made, but if forever there is a reason that scratch is called in question on a kid, that is your proof that the individual has made that scratch weight. So those are kind of my two things for you there, right? Physical copies of our alpha and your weigh-ins throughout the season. So match preparations, right? We know as a coach, we play a lot of roles, and sometimes our role, right, is mom, dad, or pack mule, and we kind of got to be ready for anything under the sun that may or may not occur for our young athletes to enable them to continue in the contest and to move forward with things. So just a suggestion from me that maybe you want to consider having a competition day bag, right, or box, or whatever happens to be, right, whether it's a tackle box, a tote, but just something that's got items that could prevent an athlete from wrestling if we don't have them, right? So one of the big things is like occlusional guards, right, or mouth guards. I would suggest, right, have a couple of just upper only, like the football style ones with the thing cut off, or an upper lower, in case one gets lost, athlete forgets it. You never quite know what you're going to run into. I would have those there. Obviously, multiple sets of nail clippers. Maybe you as coaches are better in luck than I am, but I always seem to have some individuals that just don't realize that they are growing daggers out their hands and don't trim as they should. We know that shaving, right, is a lot less of an issue than it's ever been before, but they still do have to be able to see the skin on the face for skin checks. So I would have a hair trimmer available, because maybe you need to trim up the hair. There should be some communication coming out. You shouldn't have to shave. There's no language in there about abrasive facial hair. So as long as they can see the skin and do a proper skin check, that's really kind of all they're looking for. Other things you can consider, right? Contact lens case. Okay, so a contact lens comes out, and some contact solution for athletes. More and more long hair and female athletes out there, having extra hair ties is always helpful, right? They could break in matches or whatever else. And there's just equipment stuff, right? Headgear breaks or something goes wrong with it. Having an extra headgear is a good thing. A face mask if needed. Longer days in particular, extra singlets, right? A small, medium, large, XL maybe. Especially if they're blood or they get soiled in a fashion that you are not supposed to be kind of wearing them throughout the day because of that until they are properly laundered and clean. That might help an athlete kind of get through. Or if you have an equipment failure and it rips or something like that. Maybe you need a knee pad, right? You get a skinned up knee or something like that. Trying to tape knees is very difficult. So these are just some things that I would suggest maybe having on hand could be helpful, because we all know at the end of the day, kids just want to wrestle. Right. And they're still kids. They're going to forget things, or life's going to happen, or things are going to break. And, trying to, even in the best sense, trying to bend or break our rules to allow them to still wrestle, when there's some little things we can maybe do to kind of help them out with that, or have things on hand. Because it might not be your athlete, right? Maybe it's your opposing team athlete that needs something, and you have that, and you can loan that for the day. And we can keep these kids on the mat and having a positive experience. Last but not least, right, and I'll remind this a whole bunch, don't wait till the end to get your stuff into track wrestling and to get it updated, right? Updating your rosters and updating your roster records and your different matches. Not only is this going to make your job easier at the end, right, but as it was politely put to me the other day, right, if you want your wrestlers to be able to get some love out in the news, this is a really good way to do that, because a lot of news outlets now, including Michigan Grappler or even MLive and some like the Free Press, the Lansing, State Journal, the Battle Creek Inquirer, all those kind of different news outlets, they are looking to track wrestling too for results. And so if you want your team to kind of be included in that at times, or to kind of be recognized, that's a good place to do that. And as we know, most individual tournaments now, right, they are run on track. I have a typo in there, I apologize. And keeping that updated will really help that seeding process as we kind of move forward and get us ready for that postseason. With all that said, I hope everybody continues to have a great competition schedule as we're moving forward. Have a good weekend. I know we're coming into that winter break, which is always a dicey time for all of us, but I wish everybody the best. And we'll just kind of keep moving at it. If you have specific questions or comments or things you need us to look at or address, again, please reach out to us and we will do what we can.